So, Christina, what are we talking about today in our business and branding discussion today? We started this segment earlier this week. We are all about, I'm the business dude, you're the branding dude, and we are here to help people build their businesses, build their brands, and bring them together and drop nuggets of information. What are we chewing on today, my friend?
We are talking about the importance of digital networking to be able to grow personally and in your business. So,
Mhm.
we'll start very simply today, and I'll give you a lob ball. So, 84% of people say that they would prefer to build relationships online before meeting someone in person. We talk about this idea of we are building this business online. It is a
Yes.
very different route than how you built your previous company. I see you talked to me about you were on kind of this tour in person, hopping from Winnipeg, which there's not, and however many years ago, there wasn't a ton of direct flights anywhere from
No,
Winnipeg. And
no.
you are hopping on and going around all of Canada and the US trying to build a network, trying to build a relationship. Now it's a little different. If you want to connect with somebody, typically you have the opportunity to do. So I think social media platforms are allowing us to do that, but I want to initially get your thinking on that, just in the way that networking has changed from when you were first building your company ICUC to now.
Wow. It's incredible we're having this conversation. I was thinking about it yesterday. We live in a world where now it's never been easier to connect with people. And I don't know why we don't spend more time doing that. Although I also do know why, because it's expensive to go get on an airplane and go see people. So yeah, I can go connect somebody on digitally, right?
Hmm.
There are many that'll still complain, Christina, that but I don't have the connection with somebody. I can't feel their presence. I can't really get to know them over a camera. I don't know. I don't know if I fully agree with that. I think now has never been a better time to create presence and connect with people over a camera. Yes, it takes more work. Yes, it takes more effort to be intentional with your communication. But man, can you scale networking and can you scale connecting with humans? But Christina, back when I was building ICUC, what was also different was that the internet was still coming out, right? So I didn't feel like I had a lot of competition. Now
Mm.
everybody's your competition. So not only are you networking with everybody, there's also somebody knocking on the door that's selling something similar to what you're selling. So there's a lot of things going on here. But also, Tina, I had somebody cold call me yesterday digitally. So here's the flip side to it, I think. I had somebody cold call me somebody yesterday digitally, which I like to call as a pitch slap. And just out of the
Mm.
blue, the guy just tried to sell me something. My response is, Christina, who are you?
Hmm.
Because we live in a world now where there's no reason why we can't get to know each other before we are going to engage in a business conversation. Do you agree with that?
Right. Yeah, it's the difference between a transactional relationship and a
Yes.
relationship.
Yeah.
Period. To me, it's that's no different than somebody coming up to me on the street and immediately trying to sell me something. I'm going to shut down. And I'm going
Yes.
to shut down, and there's like a whole science area that we could go about this, but that is our nervous system saying, I don't trust you. And if you get me to feel that way, you're never going to get me to buy something because you
Yes.
haven't earned my trust yet. And so there's a lot of people out there on social media trying to teach people how to build their brand. And one of the tactics that they talk about is send 100 cold DMs a day. Doesn't really matter. Just get it out there. You need reps. You need to get in people's inboxes. To me, that's the exact opposite of what I think is the most beneficial way to do it. Will it take longer? Yes, it will, because it takes time to build relationships with people. But will it lead to more effective conversations? Will it lead to that individual actually responding to you or actually trusting you? Yeah, it is. But that is the length of time it takes to do that. And not all entrepreneurs want to wait, and we're not all good at being patient. Talk to me about that. Yeah, build relationships, but like transactional, if I can just get two people to respond, maybe that's better off for me.
Yeah. So that to me, that's short sighted. Right. To me, that's a short sighted thinking. And it's interesting to hear you said because I was trained in the world of Xerox cold calling. Right. So I was trained
Hmm.
on how to go not selling photocopiers and selling fax machines, which was the law of numbers, knock on doors. But I couldn't imagine sitting in an office building in 2024 and somebody
Mm,
walking into my building unannounced and cold calling me. It just seems really
right.
bizarre because I'm like, who are you and why are you walking up to me and having a conversation? So I think this is the value of today's personal brand, Christina. that if I'm watching, so that's how Christopher Martin got on this show, truthfully.
Mhm.
I had Chris on the show here on Live in the Lab months ago, and then I watched his brand across his social platforms, and I'm like, man, this guy just shows up. Man, this guy just keeps pulling things together. And I got to know him. I got to know his digital personality, his personal brand digitally, which then made it easier for me to approach him to say, hey, do you want to do some work together? And then I've gotten to know him through the camera through a very intentional process. But had Chris not been putting himself out there and creating that brand persona, I don't know if I've ever would have leaned into wanting to work with him. So to me, that's the value. If you're an entrepreneur starting a business, you need to build your personal brand, because that's how, because when I was out there building ICUC, yes, I was flying around all around the world, knocking on doors and seeing people, and my personal brand back then. But now when most of our interactions are digital, you need to have something to bring to the table so somebody can get a 360 view of who you are, or at least who you want to put out there, Christina Flynn.
We talked about this earlier. You brought up the meta glasses, right? And I think
Yes.
what we're seeing with this kind of tech advancement is there's going to be a deterioration of trust. There already is
Yes.
a big time deterioration of trust. And so I'm already guarded in my interactions with people because I've learned, and all entrepreneurs who have been at it for a long time, unfortunately, you start pretty optimistic.
Yes.
Unfortunately, you start with lending a lot of trust to people. I did a lot of handshake deals. And what I learned from those things is that I can't fucking trust anyone. And it's not because people are bad people, but it comes down to the fact that if it is a consideration, this decision is going to impact this person's livelihood, they're always going to choose them. Always.
Yes.
So you
Yes.
can't
Human
depend
nature.
on other people. Yeah, it's just human nature. It just is. So what happens in entrepreneurship over time is you stop trusting anyone.
Yes.
And that is continuing along, whether you're in business or not. People don't trust folks. One way for people to get, for you to get people more open to trusting you is building a relationship directly. But as you said, if somebody reaches out, they're going to go look you up. They're immediately going to look you up. And so, what are you showing them about yourself that proves, like the questions we talked about earlier today in the brand bite, proves your shit, you're qualified, you're credible, you've got the right motivations? That just gets the conversation that much further so that you don't have to build that over time. It's personal, and people want to
Yes.
buy from people.
People do want to buy from people. Let's look at the opposite side of this. So many would say that I just need to go meet people. I'm human. I got to go shake hands and I got to go see people so I can build that personal relationship. Is that going to date itself effectively over time, Christina? Or are we going to absolutely need to accept that digital networking, digital marketing, all of the overwhelming information coming our way is only getting worse than better? So as a result, it's about narrative control, controlling our narrative, creating who we are, putting out who we are, and then just moving that forward.
My favorite saying, it's and not or. So
Yes.
Colby talked about it earlier. He gets a lot of energy from meeting with people. And I talk about like getting out of the computer. We spend all day sitting in this big environment around us, talking and looking at a screen. So that's not always really healthy. You need to figure out what fills your cup and what doesn't. For me, it's both. I
Mhm.
like to meet people in person, and depending on the type of deal, I might want to meet them in person. But you and I are the perfect example of that. We have
Mhm.
never met in person
Mhm.
and we do business together. I have
Mhm.
signed many multi-figure deals with people that I have never met in person. So that's why that thing of trust and deliberate, but also like innate trust in somebody, that's why it's so important because you're never going to do a deal with somebody online if you don't trust them. You have to. And sometimes you're going to get burned, but whatever. So I think for me, it's a matter of, is it going to date itself? Yeah, it already has. But I also think that's not about replacing it, it's about adding it. We can access each other in a global capacity much better than we used to be able to. My wife is consistently talking about how weird it is, how many internet friends I have. And I'm like, yeah, maybe it is weird. But I love my internet friends. If you're not into it, you don't get it. But if you are, you realize the power of it.
This to me speaks generationally, I think, and I'm going to date mine because I'm the old dude amongst the two. Oh, it's your birthday today. I'm 10. I got 10 years on you. I'm
You're
the
still
old dude
old.
amongst.
You're
Yeah,
still
I
old.
know. I'm the old dude amongst the two of us, but I enjoy my digital friends. I enjoy my digital connections. I enjoy 99% of my social interactions are all digitally. I thoroughly enjoy it. I know most
Mhm,
in my peer group are like, what the fuck, man? Like, don't you exist in the real world? No, I talk to people every single day from 4 a.m. until 10 p.m., but I do it with my fingers and my thumbs and I do it digitally. I get a lot of
mhm,
fulfillment from that. It fills my cup. I know it's not for everybody, but what's worked for me, Christina, and this is what I teach people when it comes to remote work or hybrid work or trying to build businesses this way, you have to be intentional. And I think you can
mhm,
look at me, right? So our relationship, I can hope that I hope I'm hoping that you're seeing as we're working together, you're seeing intention with the way that I address you from time to time. You're seeing intention with the way that I'll send you a message from time to time, because that to me is no different than if we were in the real world. So I try to take the real world and move it digitally and go, okay, I really enjoy my time with Tina. So if I'm going to enjoy
mhm,
my time with Christina, I'm going to have to be intentional about it digitally so I can build trust with her through the lens of a camera. And truthfully, people are like,
mhm.
man, you're good at this talking thing. No, I had to build a business. I see you see Christina, and I had to convince stakeholders to trust me by looking in the camera. And there's a skill involved in that, but you got to be intentional. And that to me leans back to the importance of digital networking for personal and business growth. If you're intentional, you're going to win. Because, Christina, in my experience, most aren't intentional. They just let it happen by accident. What are your thoughts on that?
They're not, and it's hard. It's hard to be
Yes.
intentional. It's hard to do things that you're not good at. If you don't have a
Yes.
lot of experience with this and you
Yes.
perhaps struggle socially, a lot of people have found that actually the digital relationship is easier to build if they struggle with in-person IRL social. So, one, there's that. But you have to just realize that you're not going to get it right immediately. You have to put some intention behind it in order to prove to yourself that, okay, let's experiment. For example, on LinkedIn, when I connect with somebody, I don't just send them a connection request. I send them a connection request with a note and saying, hey, I checked out your profile. I actually see a lot of similarities between us. And then I
Mhm.
list the similarities. Would love to connect. What do you think is the likelihood of somebody connecting with me if I do that and I've shown them that I've taken time out of my day to actually look at who they are and what they're about before connecting? That's the differentiator shit that we're talking about. 20
Yes.
people that day are going to send that person a message and try to
Boom.
connect with them with nothing.
Yes.
I'm the one that's going to show them that I took the time out. That is the intentional shit that we're talking about. Does it take more time? Yes, 100%. But is it valuable? Way more valuable.
Yes. Let's wrap it up. Let's wrap it up with this. Let's give Nation a nugget. And I know I work to do this. I know you do as well, but I'll give you guys something to consider. As Christina said, if you're connecting with people on LinkedIn, we live in a world of AI generated text, AI generated comments, AI generated everything. It takes you less than a minute to hold your phone up. Hey, Christina, I saw your LinkedIn profile. I just wanted to say, hey, what's shaking? My name is Keith. I'm not an AI generated bot. I'm actually a real human being. I'm looking forward to seeing your content in my feeds. Awesome to meet you. Send. And now Christina has sees a video from Keith, sending a message to her. She knows I'm real. And here's most important, Christina. I've taken time out of my day to give
Mhm.
you time by me pausing to express myself to you. I'm only going to assume that you're going to go, holy shit, man. I got 20 messages from people today that send me texts. This dude paused to send me a video message. Wow. I want to lean in and learn more about him. Thoughts, Christina?
But that's going to age because AI is going to allow me to send that video message and I don't have to do anything. So that's going
Yes.
to age. Where the difference is that I think whether it's text or video, it's not just saying, hey, I came across your profile. It's saying, hey, I came across your profile and specifically, these are the areas that I think we have in common. This is the post that stood out for me. This is the specific content that I'm excited to see because that's not scalable. I can't get AI without doing any work myself to take that information from your profile, currently, anyways, and put it into that message. So, again, I'm still not really trusting the video. I think people do a little bit, but you need to go that extended step and say, hey, I saw you. I saw your profile. I loved your point about XYZ. I see that we're both interested in storytelling. I see that you're frustrated with this just like I am. Would love to connect. And you're already showing them then that there's a value to the connection because there's a similarity, there's a shared interest. Personally, we will get along potentially.
Yes. Hey, you're hanging out with Keith and Christina, business and branding, mornings and live with Keith and friends. We're wrapping up our show here today. Shinku, I'm mostly antisocial. You are mostly antisocial, Shinku, except on our show. And I appreciate that because you're always offering nuggets of content and conversation. So I appreciate you hanging out
But
with us today.
that, I'm going to interrupt.
Yeah.
That definition is a dated definition because we say antisocial and we assume it based on this like old school definition of what is
Yes.
social, what is
Yes.
IRL. And I would say
Yes.
you're not at all antisocial. Chinku, you show up here every day, you comment, you participate in the conversation. Don't let those dated ideals of what is social and what is not social
Yes.
define who you are and what you're about.
Yeah. Said Christina, said, what a great conversation today. What a great overall show. Honestly, we started to chat about why do we just have one day to talk about mental health? We should be talking about it all day. And we had some different points of views on that. I thought you had some great points of views on that. We continued with center stage. Colby, man, I was inspired by Colby, Christina. I'm really glad that you introduced me to him on Creator Spotlight last week and to hear about his journey. Christina, there's a lot of human beings that had a story like Colby. So to hear that today has been awesome. We talked about functional training with John and Marty, like the things that we need to do as we age as human beings. Really good conversation. AJ dropped in with fuel, with mind fuel, giving Colby some things to think about on the mental side of things. And of course, we saw this crazy doxing situation where glasses are the next spatial computing platform. Nation, I got a message from Christina on the side. I freaked out by this. I'm like, yeah, I saw your face.
That's I'm not kind of. I'm really freaked out. And I'm not normally freaked out. I'm real freaked out.
We're going to be back tomorrow, guys. We're going to get out of here. We got some work to do. And we're back tomorrow for Mornings Live, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. The only show to help you guys get out of bed. Like, subscribe, comment on the channel.